Well, what is up, Mission Church? How are we doing? Welcome. I'm so honored that you're a part of this weekend's experience. If you're just checking us out, if you don't have no clue who I am, that's all right. My name is Mike Hickerson. I'm honored to be the lead pastor of Mission Church. I love our church. I love everything that's going on. This time is crazy and unprecedented. I know that. And so it's just really important that we lean in together, that we not give up meeting together, that we not give up encouraging each other. We are a bunch of imperfect people at Mission Church. If you've been around Mission at all, you need to know that. And we believe no one is perfect, but that change is possible. And that means that there's hope for everyone. We believe that God is who he says he is, and he did everything he promised to do, and he sent his son Jesus into the mess of humanity to rescue and save us. And that means there's hope for every single one of us. In fact, the mission of Mission, if you're just hanging out, is that we exist to help people find and follow Jesus. We're trying to make Jesus the hero of our story, the hero of our time. We want to make him famous. We want to be surrendered to him because he rescues and he saves. And man, if you don't know Jesus, or if you had a bad version of Jesus when you were a kid and you're trying to figure out, who God is and what he's doing, you're kind of coming back and investigating in this season, man, fall in love with Jesus. Fall in love with the Bible. Fall in love with who God reveals himself to be with skin on in the form of Jesus. I mean, it is amazing. He is amazing. And he provides hope for everyone because he paid the price for us. In fact, in this series of the Red Letters, we've been studying the best sermon of all time. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. It's from Matthew 5-7. We've actually, in this Red Letter series, and the reason it's called Red Letters, you probably know this, but in the Bible, when they were making the Bible and printing it out, they decided to make Jesus' words, the words that he actually spoke, the quotes from him, they made them in red for whatever reason. And I probably should know the reason. I don't know the exact reason. I looked it up. I couldn't find it. Someone else will Google it for me. That's fine. And you'll say it on there. But what it is they made all the words that he quoted in red. And so we said, let's spend some time in the words of Jesus. In this time when we could be divided about everybody else's words, let's spend time with the one who unifies us and his words. And not even the whole sermon. You don't even get the whole Sermon on the Mount. We're spending time in the first 8 verses of the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5 that are called the Beatitudes. And we said that in the red letters, we're walking through things like, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the persecuted. Another word, if you're no one really says blessed, you say bless you. That's just because you have to because somebody sneezed. But blessed is more like happy, or enjoyable, or really honoring your life. I love this part. Blessed or happy are the poor in spirit, and that kind of messes you up a little bit. And so I was pumped to teach in this series, pumped to teach on the Beatitudes. This is one of the things that helped me when I was not far from God. I just fell in love with who Jesus was, and the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount were something that God used to bring me back to him. And so I'm pumped to teach in this series. I'm getting ready. I'm excited for it. And then I realized what my verse is. And I'm not going to show you the verse yet because I just want to ask us a couple questions. Just for fun. Anybody like personality tests? Because I do. I love personality tests. So if you on the chat or wherever you're engaging in this, if you know your Enneagram, throw it out there. If you're Myers-Briggs, throw it out there. If you're the color thing, throw it out there. Or the animal thing, throw it out there. If you have no personality, just put 0 and glad you're here. But no, I love personality tests, so I'm going to tell you a couple things about my personality. If you know anything about them, you're going to know exactly about me, and I want to apologize ahead of time. So I'm Enneagram fans out there? No? Yes? Okay. I'm an Enneagram 8, and all of them are supposed to be good, except that one's not. It's the only bad one out there, so you know everything you need to know about me. I'm in Myers-Briggs, ENTP. I'm when you go through I'm a red on the color thing. I'm a lion and an otter on the animal thing. And so when I was thinking about walking into the Beatitudes, I just want you to know my personality. There's a couple common words that are said about me throughout all those descriptors. No matter which one you take, no matter if you like it or not, this is what comes up around me. Challenger, willful, confrontational. I'm tons of fun to have at parties. Self-confident, strong, assertive, protective, resourceful, straight-talking, quick-witted, no patience for people that can't keep up. I mean, just sounds like a really, really nice guy. I know, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be a pastor and try to be a servant to people with that personality. That's what God's been working on me on. So I was so excited for the Beatitudes because Jesus just goes right at what living is all about. It's the best sermon ever preached. And then I get my verse and I go to read my text for the Beatitude that I get to talk about. And it says this: blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And I'm like, uh-oh, Jody totally set me up. I'm like, challenger, willful, confrontational, self-confident, strong, assertive, protective, resourceful, straight-talking, quick-witted, no patience for people that can't keep up. Like, if this is a blessing, then I'm missing out on the blessing because that is not me. Jody set me up. Jesus set me up, because if there was one word that I wish could describe me but doesn't describe me that I had in the Beatitudes, it would be meek. Because in my mind, meek is weak. But what I'm learning and what's been helpful for me, and I don't know how you grew up and I don't know what your personality is, but I'm learning that meek is not a personality trait. Meek is something that God calls us to be, and meek does not equal weak. No one uses the word meek these days because we think it's weak. This world is yours, it says, when you are meek. But in our hard driving, our hard charging, our market-driven context, we can't get there because we think meekness is weakness, and meek is not weak. Because truly strong people in life are gentle. Meek is freedom from pretense. What I mean by that, if you've ever experienced the grace of God, I've experienced the grace of God. If we've been saved by grace alone through faith, if we've been rescued by God, we didn't do anything for it other than move towards God. We don't do anything for it. We just don't. We got saved. Who did that? I didn't do that. He did that. Who rescued me? Who ransomed me? Who pulled me out of the muck and the mire? I didn't pull myself out of the muck and the mire, so I can take no credit for who I am today because I'm trying to become the best version of myself because of the one who rescued me. So meekness is not weakness. Meek gets me up out of the I chair. Not the high chair. I know you got kids in high chairs, but most of us adults live in the I chair, where it's what I want and what I need and when I need it and how I need it, and it's about me. But meekness pulls us out of that, and meekness is not weakness. It eradicates pretense because God did it. God blesses us, God gifts us, God calls us, God establishes us. This doesn't make weak people, it makes meek people. I love this quote from Aristotle. I don't read a ton of Aristotle, but I know this quote about Aristotle is that meek, well, we don't use this word much, but meek is strength under control. It's that idea of having this massive amount of strength, almost like a wild stallion, like a wild horse that hasn't been bridled. It's a massive animal. It is a strong animal. It's a wild animal. But meekness is when that animal that has all that strength, it has all that ability, it has all that fire, it has all that personality, becomes under control to a more important hand, to a more important vision, to a more important way. And you may be thinking that meek is like, if you're meek, then you can't be mighty. Like, I just want you to know that meek, if you're out of control, then we aren't meek. If we get out of control, like when we overreact to everything that's going on in our world, if we get easily offended, if we get easily triggered, we aren't meek because our power gets out of control. We aren't meek when we don't own our emotions. We aren't meek when we need to feel this sense of powering up over everybody, or how dare that guy cut me off, that idiot cut me off in the road. That was my spot. He made me brake before I wanted to brake. I'm not meek when I feel the need to power up in a moment, or I feel the need to power up as a boss, or I feel the need to power up as a friend, or power up as a husband, or power up as a dad, or power up as a teammate, or power up on social media. There is no meekness when my power is out of control. That's the opposite of meekness, because meekness isn't weakness. Meekness is strength under control. Another word in the Bible that is exactly connected to meekness, in fact, is meek. In fact, sometimes it's used in place of meek, is this word gentle. Meek equals gentleness. You start doing studies and like what the original language of the Bible, and meek and gentleness are immediately connected and often used in place of each other. So what I would want to walk through today, and this has been a journey for me, like I want to be surrendered in who God is making me to be. I'm an imperfect person trying to be the best version of myself, but I know the best version of myself is not just what I do, but what God does in me and who he makes me to become, because I'm a much loved son or daughter of his. And so what I'm learning about meekness and what I think the benefits of living a meek life or a gentle life, that's what I want to walk through today. Because there's some benefits of meekness. And like when you see meek, because this isn't a word we use and we don't even like it because we think meek is weak. So if you need to, just replace gentleness with that because it's the same word biblically. But blessed are the meek. That's what Jesus said. Blessed are you that have strength under control. Not a doormat, not taking any God-given wiring away from you. But that strength that you have, that's made you who you are, that God-given ability, that God-given passion, that God-given fire, that God-given personality, those God-given gifts, that God-given holy discontent, absolutely. But you can be meek with it. We're called to be. Because it's that power, it's that strength bridled under control for the best uses of what God would have for us. And there's some benefits of meek and benefits of gentleness. One of them is that being meek or learning to become meek is an antidote to anger. And I have so many friends that anger is the trigger. Anger is the default emotion that they go to. Anger, because they feel like they've been wronged so much, or they feel like this annoyance builds up, or there's this thing that goes on and people owe them an unannoying life, or people owe them the thing that they want. They just get so angry. And that power under control, man, meekness is an antidote to that. In fact, Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle, there's our word right there, same word. A gentle, meek answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Man, and this has been a season where our emotions are on full blast, on front page. We can't get away. We're navigating things that no one in our lifetime has had to navigate before, right? And so what happens is that we've got all these emotions that are new, we've got all these feelings that are new, and our default is not to become the kind of person that God has called us to. Our default is that way that we've defended ourselves for so long. If somebody gets mad at us, you know what we're going to do? We're going to mirror the emotions of the other person. That's what is normal. That's a normal human reaction. You get mad at me, you kind of honk at me, well, I'm going to honk 2 seconds longer at you than you honk at me. You raise your voice at me, well, I'll raise my voice at you. Well, you know what, you're not going to talk to me like that, well, you're not going to talk to me like that. So we just start mirroring the emotions of each other, but a gentle answer turns away wrath. So if you just wanted a tip from Jesus on how to be meek, and how to actually enact this in your life this week, and what would maybe set the trajectory of your life, especially my friends, men and women who anger is the primary trigger of things that have caused you pain and harm and other people pain and harm in your life. When other people raise their voice, you intentionally lower yours. Because a meek answer, gentle, power under control, because I'm not out of control emotionally. I'm under control. A gentle, meek answer turns away wrath. You don't even have to love Jesus to know that that's true. But following Jesus will make your life better, and it will make all of us better at life. And a gentle answer will turn away wrath. But a harsh word stirs up all kinds of harm. Man, meek is not weak. It is power under control, and it is the best way to live. You want to win at life? Meek. Second way that meekness benefits us is that it disarms critics. Man, I don't know your story, don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that you've succeeded at something in life, even if you got just a great report card this last time. That's awesome. But the more success you get, the more better you do, the more critics you're going to get. The only way not to be criticized in life is to say no or do nothing. And if you say something, know something, or do something, there's going to be some critic somewhere. But how we react to criticism says a lot about our character, says a lot about the meekness that we have, because we're not trying to power up on anybody so that they know who we are, because we already know who we are because we're much loved sons and daughters of him. We're rescued sons and daughters of the King. So the opinion of you has no bearing on my identity. So the criticism of you doesn't make me feel better or worse about myself, or the praise of someone else doesn't want to make me feel better or worse about myself. And if I get wrapped up in all that, I can't actually lead anybody. So the more successful you get, the more critical, or the more critics you're going to get. But meekness, power under control, disarms critics. In fact, 2 Timothy 2:25 says, opponents must be gently instructed, because the hope is that God will grant them repentance. I mean, we got opponents everywhere these days, on every platform, on every channel, on every social media outlet. We got opponents everywhere. And if you're like wired like me, like an 8, it's like ding, 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 game on, let's get ready to rumble. I can fight. Let's go. But that's not meekness. Opponents must be gently, meekly instructed, because the hope is that God will grant them repentance, a turning around of their life into the knowledge of the truth, and that is that they are much loved sons and daughters of him that are worthy to be rescued, because there's hope for everyone. And that means that there's hope for people that don't think or vote or live or believe anything like me or anything like you. And you know what our response is? Meekness. Power under control. Not weakness, but meekness and the hope that they will see who God is and turn their life around. I mean, I could give you a list to criticize about me, but what I'm learning is that those of us that are going to be on this journey of meekness is that we got to have tough skin and a tender heart. Tough skin to criticism and a tender heart to God. What messes us up is when we get a tough heart to criticism and tough skin to God, that we won't listen to anybody, or we get a tender heart to criticism and tough skin to God, so that we hear what everyone else says about us and we take it to heart and we won't let God get in. Where we want to be is tough-skinned because your opinion of what God has called me to is not the most important thing. And a tender heart to say, God, search me, and what do you have for me, and what do you want me to grow in, and how do I need to grow, and be meek in you, with that strength under control, just like you went to me. What they think of me, they think of you, shouldn't have any bearing on your relationship and your heart with God. When we're living our best life, our blessed life, the happy are you, the blessed are you. Blessed are the meek, for they'll inherit the earth. Another benefit of being meek is that it makes you persuasive. I don't know if any salespeople, I know there's a few salespeople that are a part of mission and on kind of all areas, but the days of the hard sale is like gone, right? No one is going, listen up, it no longer works. You're not like louder, faster, stronger, like, hey, my name is Mike Hickerson, I'm here to tell you about this car, I need you to sell you, I need you to buy my car real quick in 3, 2, 1. Like no one's doing that anymore. Like Dwight Schrute trying to get you somewhere, I want you to buy my car, 3, 2, 1. Like no one's pushing anymore. That sales tactic doesn't work anymore. It actually makes people revolt, makes people scoot back. And if I wanted to persuade you to live for Jesus, like getting up here, sitting on this stage and yelling at you about how bad you are and how much you need to turn around isn't the most effective method. It is a method, but power under control can be persuasive, because no one wants to hear about anyone scream about all the things that they're doing wrong. We believe that God rescues and saves, and he didn't come trying to make us like put our head in the dirt of all that we were in. He tried to love us into obedience. He tried to rescue. He tried to be self-sacrificial. He moved towards us in meekness. Power under control can be persuasive, because nagging never works. Meek people are pleasant and persuasive. Fools and idiots are rude. I would just say negative speech never makes anyone seem more intelligent or more godly. Power under control. Meek, not weak. I'm learning this phrase that I need it. This is for me. I am never persuasive, really, when I'm abrasive. Never fought anyone into the kingdom. I've never fought any of my friends that are far from God to change their life and towards the kingdom because I've been abrasive. But when I'm meek, power under control, and in relationship, it's amazing what God does. Another avenue and blessing of being meek makes us attractive. And so fellas, I want you to listen up. Like if you want to know what a man looks like, 1 Timothy 6:11, ladies, you can listen into because you're going to want to know this and pursue this as well. But you, Timothy, are a man of God, so run away from all these evil things. Here are 5 things, fellas, that you need to do. Pursue righteousness, right living, and a godly life. One that when people get a whiff of your life, it reeks of godliness. It's like, I don't know much about the God that he serves or what he does or all the stuff, but there's something about the way that that guy lives is a godly life. Along with faith and love and perseverance. And there's our word, meekness, gentleness. Abs are great. Work out, tone it, tuck it, flex it, build it, whatever you need to do. That's awesome. It does nothing for character. And it does nothing for conflict resolution. And it does nothing for being a man after God's own heart. So work all the outside stuff. Ladies, let him work all the outside stuff. Ladies, you want to work all the outside stuff? That's great. But what we really want to do at the end, when we're going to have power under control because of who is leading us, because we're rescued sons and daughters, it looks a lot like righteousness, a godly life, faith, love, perseverance, and meekness. Gentlemen are gentle, meek men. And that's powerful. And ladies, you know that's attractive. Another benefit, another blessing of meekness is that it communicates love to the other. When I'm not trying to power up on you, when I'm not trying to dominate you, when I'm not trying to win you, when I'm not trying to do the thing, when I'm not trying to win the argument, when I'm not trying to be the best, when I don't need to promote myself, like when I'm power under control, it communicates that I have a respect and a love for the other. Colossians 3:19 says, "Husband, love your wives and do not be harsh with them." Meek husbands is the way to go. Power under control. That's a great husband. Fathers, Ephesians 6:4, fathers, do not exasperate. Do not lay a burden on your kids. Do not let them be so overbearing that they can never win. Do not try to power up on them all the time. Do not make the life that you're calling them so unlivable. Do not put so much pressure on them. Do not exasperate them. Bring them up in training and instruction in the Lord. Meek dads. Power under control. That's what we're called to be. Another blessing of meekness is that it earns respect. There's probably 2 figures in history, there's probably more than this, but 2 figures that stand out to me in history that were the meekest power under control leaders that got so much done. One for me is Mother Teresa. I mean, she's like 4 foot nothing, less than 100 pounds, lives in a slum in Calcutta, a nun in Calcutta, and she works with people that are dying and destitute, but she could walk into the highest positions of power and to walk into the men and women in highest positions of power in our world, and they would be in awe of her. And the way that she lived, and her faith and her compassion and her tenacity and her servanthood. Meek, powerful woman, under control for God's purposes. Another example for me when I think of a meek leader that was powerful, power under control, that got godly stuff done, is Martin Luther King Jr. 1950s and 60s, the civil rights movement. I mean, that's not that long ago that he was fighting for freedoms that we think should be so normal now, but we got a long way to go as a country. He's walking through the civil rights movement, an effort to desegregate. And he was met with like so much violence, so much criticism, so much stuff, but he walked forward with a commitment to nonviolent protest. That is crazy amounts of godly power wrapped into a fact that we're going to get that under control because we're going to get under God's control for the change that he's calling our country to. Whew. That's meek, and it's not weak. It's a lot of power under control for the change that God has called us to. And man, if you want to lead anything, you want to get anything done, meekness is a prerequisite for leadership. Anytime that you have to stand up and say, you got to follow me, I'm the boss, I'm the leader, you got to do what I say. If I need to tell you that I am, then I ain't. That's an old Oklahoma and Kentucky saying. So let's just put that out there. If I need to tell you I am, I ain't. And earning respect with meekness is a prerequisite for leadership. Leadership is earned and learned and discerned. It is never demanded. The difference between a boss and a leader is that you're a boss by position and you're a leader by example and influence. And God would say, I'm calling you to be meek. Power under control for my purposes. Next thing, probably my favorite thing about meekness is that it makes me like Jesus. Matthew 11:28 and 29, Jesus says, come to me, all who are weary, maybe us today, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And you're signing up for like, please give me rest from this, everything going on. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle. Exact word. Jesus is saying, I am meek. Exact word. When he said, blessed are the meek, this is it. That's the same word, for I am gentle. That's who Jesus is. So when I go after meekness, when I become more meek, when I let God transform me into meek, I'm becoming way more like Jesus, who is gentle and humble in heart. And in that moment, when I go after that, when I trust him and become more like him, then I will find rest for my soul. Last couple things. I'm learning that I can't fake it. Can't fake meekness. I mean, even with my personality, I can't fake it, but thank God it's not supposed to be a personality trait. It's supposed to be a trait that God develops inside of us when we're surrendered to who he calls us to be. Galatians 5:22 says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness. It's the same word, meekness. Power under control and self-control. And this is the stuff when we are becoming the right people under the authority of who God has called us to, he empowers us to live this way. We start tracing after him and surrendering ourselves to him. He produces this kind of stuff in us. All right. If you're like me, you're like, that's great. How in the world do I do that? I don't even know. Where do I begin? So this is not an exhaustive list, but I got 3 things. 3 simple, practical things that'll help those of us with meekness problems begin to just train our soul to begin to surrender to meekness, with that power under control. The first one, how do I do this? When someone serves me, I need to be understanding and not demanding. When we can all go to restaurants whenever we want again, I hope the reputation of people that are part of the family of mission is that they are the easiest people to serve because there's this power that they have, because they're the ones that are supposed to be being served, but they don't like power up on it. They're just easy to serve because they're understanding and not demanding. I don't think that's the reputation of many Christians on a Sunday afternoon after they go to church. I've been a server. I know. But not so with us. Another practical way, how do we do this? When someone disagrees with me this week on any outlet, in any way, on any social media, on any post, on any driving situation, on any social interaction, when someone disagrees with me this week, I can be tender without surrender because I'm not a doormat and I'm going to stand up for what's right. But I need to be power under control. And I can be tender without surrender. fact, it's been a challenge for me this week. I found this verse that I thought was very impactful, maybe the best social media section for our time of all time. It's from the paraphrase from the Message where Eugene Peterson wrote of the Bible. It says this in Romans 14:1, "Welcome with open arms fellow believers who don't see things the way you do." There are people that don't see things the way you do. Okay, next. And don't jump all over them every time they do or say something that you don't agree with, because we can be tender without surrender. Even when it seems that they are strong on opinions but weak in the faith department, and you could really help them out if they would just listen to you fight. This is the part I love too, because when we remember that they have their own history to deal with, we want to treat them gently. Power under control. So when somebody does something this weekend that I don't agree with, they disagree with me, I can be tender without surrender. And lastly, wrapping up, when someone disappoints me this week, I can be gentle and not judgmental. Man, I don't know if you're anything like me. This may be easy for some of us as we're like living out this who God would want us to be in our life. But this is a tough one for me. But it's who I want to be. And I'm learning that I can't white knuckle my way there, that I've got to surrender my way there so that God can produce this kind of stuff in me. Man, you can do this. We can do those three things. I can be understanding without demanding. I can be tender without surrender. And I can be gentle without being judgmental. And watch what God would do. Why don't you pray with me? God, you are good, and you are great, and you are kind. And God, thank you for sending your Son, the way that he taught us to live, the way that he taught, the way that he lived, and the way that he taught us to live, the way that he empowers us to live, the way that he sacrificed himself for our life with you. God, it is just so compelling to be a son of yours. And I want that so bad for everyone to understand how good you are and how great it is to live as a much loved son or daughter of yours. And it's the best possible way to live because you empower us to do it. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.